Hello and welcome to another Armchair Athletes video. My name is Corey. If it's your first time here, make sure you like and subscribe. It's going to help a ton as I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and I answer all of your questions in the comments section below. So this video will be archived, whether it's something you have a question about heading into week 7 and out of week 6, or 5 weeks from now next year, who knows. I'll be looking at the comment section and I'll make sure to get to all of your questions. Make sure you follow us on all social medias. Those links are in the description. And then check out my Start to Sit One YouTube short series that we have going on as well. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get right into this one, folks. Here are 5 strategies that you should never try if you want to succeed in fantasy football. We'll start with number 1, banking solely on projections. Now, projections are made by these experts working for these fantasy football companies. And a big reason that they are put in there is just to try to give everyone an idea. You know, they want people to be able to gauge, who do I start, who is set to have a good week, and they base it on a ton of metrics. Some of those metrics you see the projections based on are going to be players' performance coming in, what kind of weeks have they had in the past, the health of that specific player, and then the health of contributing players around them. So if you've got a Jerry Jeudy, his projection is probably going to be a lot higher if Cortland Sutton's hurt, you know, if somebody else is hurt, if Hinton is hurt, and if Russ has been playing well as well. Another thing that's considered in these projections is what the opposing defense has done against players of that position and more. So if you're in ESPN Fantasy Football, you'll see, oh, Melvin Gordon is going up against a defense that has allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. That's something you want to consider as well. So that's kind of what those projections are based on. But if, let's say, one person is projected to get one more point than somebody else, and you really believe that person who, let's say, has 12 fantasy point projected or fantasy points scored projected for the week as opposed to 13 of somebody else, if you have justifiable reasoning to think that that person's going to score more, don't let the projections dictate what you do, because then Murphy's Law, they're going to do better. You're going to be listening to that projection. It's going to bite you in the butt, and you're going to go, oh, I should have just trusted my gut. So if you have what you believe to be sound research that is sound enough to defy this 1 or 2 point differential in projections, by all means, defy it. Now, if someone's projected 0, they're probably hurt, they're probably suspended, they're probably not playing, or 2 or 4, maybe they're a backup, somebody else is slotted in ahead of them, they're not projected to play a whole lot. You know, read those descriptions as well. Do some in-depth research in that regard, but do not rely solely on projections. I cannot stress that enough, because something's going to happen. You would have trusted your gut. Things would have gone better maybe, so don't let yourself get into one of those situations. Number 2, relying on previous season stats. I've got a case study for this one. Now, when you're looking at staples of the game, like your Tom Brady's, your Patrick Mahomes, your Josh Allen at quarterback, your Derrick Henry at running back, or your Justin Jefferson, or Mr., 8 1,000-yard seasons, Mike Evans at receiver, it may seem tempting to just base one's decision off of, what somebody did in the prior season. And in some situations, that's okay, but that, again, cannot be your only reason. Even right now, as we hit the middle of the season, some of you may be tempted to see how a player did last year and go, well, if they catch up to the 1,200 yards that they had in 2021, I'm going to do pretty well because they're only at 300 right now. Do not do that. So many factors change over the course of an offseason, even throughout a season. Jobs get taken. Maybe a new signing comes in. Things change like that. Devontae Adams comes in and takes the wide receiver 1 spot away from Hunter Renfrow, and rightfully so. The guy's extremely talented. Or you have a situation like this with Myles Gaskin. This is the 2021 stat set in Pro Football Reference for the Miami Dolphins. Here's Myles Gaskin up top. I like it a lot. 13 plus touches per game. Only 3.5 yards per carry. So if you look a little further down, actually, they were experimenting. The Dolphins were with Duke Johnson throughout the season. Gave him a decent amount of touches. He was more productive. 4.6 yards per attempt to Myles Gaskin's 3.5. So you have that as well. Gaskin only started 10. But he's at the top of this chart, and let's say you're in a deep league, 10, 12, 14, 16 teams, you're getting in the later rounds, and you need a flex spot. You need somebody who's going to go into that running back 2 spot even if things get really, really scarce. You look at Myles Gaskin and go, hey, because his 2021 stats will pop up when you're drafting. This guy did good last year from a usage standpoint. He got enough attention. Maybe I go with something like that. Well, here's why you shouldn't go with something like that. So Myles Gaskin, highest usage of anybody out of the backfield for the Dolphins in 2021. Where is he now? Just a few months later, he is 4th on the depth chart for the Miami Dolphins. He's behind Raheem Mostert. He's behind Edmonds. He's behind Ahmed. That is not a situation you want to be in. So don't base your decision-making when it comes to drafting, when it comes to picking up somebody off of free agency going into the season, Don't do that solely based on how that person did last year because, well, you might just have a situation like what we had with Myles Gaskin. So not the biggest fan of a situation like that. That's not something that you want to be in. So do your research. It could be as simple as looking at the depth chart going into it. That's what I just pulled up with Myles Gaskin, a guy who dropped from the number 1 guy to number 4 when Miami just had a complete overhaul of the coaching situation with McDaniels coming in and many of other factors as well. Obviously, when you bring in a guy like Chase Edmonds or Raheem Mostert, the speedster, there's going to be some competition, but Gaskin dropped rather quickly. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring up that situation for all of you. Number 3, sitting with your drafted squad. I used to be this way, stuck in my old ways, going, clearly I did something right. I'm projected, if you look in ESPN, I'm projected to finish second out of 10, 12, 14 teams. I'm doing pretty good. You head into week 4, week 5, you're 2-2, 2-3, 1-4. Here's one reason you probably shouldn't do that as well. So let's say someone's underperforming. That's one thing, but another situation that you could run into is, guess what? Injuries. We've had plenty of those this year. You look at Dak Prescott, someone who's been out for a prolonged period of time, should be coming back soon after that magical Cooper Rush, stretch. Javonte Williams out for the year. Elijah Mitchell out for an extended period of time. Those are situations you just want to avoid. Don't be stuck in the fact that, I've got somebody that I took in the second round. The last thing I want to do is drop them. Look, if they're out until week 13, week 14, that's the beginning of your playoffs. Swallow your pride. Maybe try and convince somebody else that they have some value in the last couple of weeks. But if you don't think it's feasible to ride out with a player, but the only thing holding you back is the fact that you spent a second, third, fourth round draft pick on them, cut ties. There is absolutely no need to hold on at that point. So, just get rid of them at that point. Number 4, striking trades or rejecting trades and then leaving it at that. Now, if somebody offers you Marcus Mariota and a bag of Lay's chips for Cooper Kupp, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, you should probably think long and hard on it. However, if that somebody is going for a player on your team, they obviously see value in your squad. Now, sit with me on this, okay? Maybe you didn't see their offer as fair, but if you've got a better shot of striking a counter deal with them than you do of anybody else, and you probably do in the league, go with it. Why would you not go with it? Somebody saw value in your team. Let's say you're 1-4, you're 2-5, whatever the week ends up being when you see this, and you have a Cooper Kupp on your team. You're not going to take Marcus Mariota, but you could take depth. You could take a couple of top 10, top 12 people, one at each position. You could fill in a flex spot. You could get a good, solid tight end like Tyler Higbee or Dallas Goedert. I'm just throwing things out there. But if you've got a blockbuster player, not a very good record, and somebody inquires, even if the deal doesn't seem fair up front, they're interested. And they're probably more interested than most in striking a deal with you, consider they pitch anything. Negotiate with them. My only rule here, if you are undefeated, if you are 9, 10, 11-0, there is no reason to trade. Do not be that guy or girl. Do not be that person. Unless there's somebody injured or suspended or some other unique situation, seems like it's going to arise or has arisen where you get more usage out of somebody down the road, ride with those players. Do not allow anybody else in your league to have an upgrade. If you are undefeated or you have a great record, you're top of the league, and you don't think there's any improvements that can be made, don't try and start forcing things. Don't get greedy. Don't start scraping the bottom of the barrel, seeing if you can get a couple players for one or vice versa on another team, going, well, they're out of it. Maybe I can get a better player. Don't do that. Just sit with what you have. Sit with what you have unless there's suspensions, injuries, or other unique situations. That's my advice there. Let's go to number 5. Used to be guilty of this as well, and I see a lot of people do it. Chasing points from a past week. Be careful on this. If somebody has a great week, please just don't look at points alone when considering whether or not you should start them in the next week. Picking that player up, understanding their value, looking at a variety of metrics that we'll go over, considering the situation around them, and then considering whether you should keep or trade them at this high value that they're probably at because they had a good week. That's more like it. Deion Jackson of the Indianapolis Colts. He is a perfect example of this. Here's his week 6. He might have just won a week for me. That is phenomenal. You look at a guy who had over 20 touches on the game, over 120 total yards. He got the touchdown. This is 25 plus points in PPR for a third string running back who's behind JT and Hines. I'll take it. I'll take 25 plus points and over 20 touches, over 120 total yards and the touchdown. Sign me up. But you have to understand who's in front of him when healthy. You have to understand what the rep count is going to be when healthy. That's when you start to look at snap counts, touches on the season when everybody's healthy, that type of thing. This example is pretty obvious, as most football fans know that, when Jonathan Taylor's back, the carries are his. He's well tenured. He's definitely earned his spot there. But don't chase points from a past week. Some running back by committee situation where you've got like a Melvin Gordon and a Javonte Williams before, he had a season-ending injury. That's more interesting. That's something where you really need to watch for it. Going, oh, Melvin got 22 touches last week. Maybe it is his team. Check to see if Javonte Williams was out halfway through the game or something like that. Those are things you just need to be cognizant of for sure. If you made it to the end of the video, I know those were quick 5 tips, but you can apply these. These are situations where I see people falling down the wrong rabbit hole all the time. So I just wanted to kind of put this information out there. I'll probably do some more instructional stuff in the future, but like I said before, like and subscribe if you got some value out of this video. If you have any questions at all pertaining to fantasy football, please drop those in the comment section. I'll get to those as soon as possible. But other than that, my name is Corey Sparks. This is Armchair Athletes, and we will see you next time.